From what age do you feel like you were driven?
Quite young, man. I'm probably like 15. I was like, yeah, let's do it. We were the band. I was in a sort of hardcore punk band called TV Party after the Black Flag song, and we used to just play Black Flag and Minor Threat and Stooges covers, and a few of our own songs as well, just about like any sort of wherever high school age bands can play. There was like some youth centre type things that would do about, I think they were called Universal Connections. There was a few of them, and then some stuff in Erskine as well. But we used to rehearse a lot. We'd rehearse like 3 or 4 times a week because it was fun. Like it was what we did. It was like enjoyable to us. And I mean, at lunchtimes and intervals, we just head in the music room anyway at high school. So we were always just playing stuff because it was fun. But yeah, I was quite driven. I was always quite like sort of knew what I wanted to do to an extent. Just went for it.
Who would you interview if you could?
You. You're very driven, I think.
Do you think?
Yeah, you're very driven, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't like to admit it.
Nah, you're driven, man. It's cool. It's good. People should be. That's the thing. It's a Scottish thing as well. You're not really allowed to be seen to be ambitious. Like if you notice the like general public opinion of within the music circle of bands that are seen to be ambitious from Scotland, people go, oh, the reeks of ambition. Even that's regardless of how good or not their music is. But if you're seen to be, it's more acceptable to be just content with making music that can sell at King Tut's, but no one gives a fuck about you outside of Glasgow. There's a weird, but I think that's just the Scottish mentality where you don't really want to be seen to be ambitious. It's a balance though, man. I think if you're ambitious and can be humble about it, then that's cool. But if you're big ego, then everyone in Scotland especially just turns off. Different story in London, man. You're working on sessions in London, it's very different. People are, you know, I mean, if you've moved there for music, you're very serious about it and you know what you want and you're driven. So yeah, when you're on sessions there, you're working with a really different mentality. You have to, even in terms of engineering, it's like, you really need to up your game because the people there are really good, you know.
We're kind of talking there about some of the more negative aspects that the Scottish kind of mentality can bring in. What are some of the positive aspects you feel like you have as a result of your Scottish?
Well, I think Glasgow's always been great for DIY stuff. People just doing it for themselves. And I think, you know, it's just always been a thread, be it all the sort of Glasgow punk stuff at the Priory. It wasn't really a scene I was involved in, but it basically people just doing it for themselves. That's cool. And then before that was kind of our stuff, which was the sort of Fuzzkill thing. Again, that was just sort of Ross doing it for himself and all the bands involved with that. And then before that, when I was just starting to go to gigs, there was like a really great like noise scene in Glasgow, like really, really good stuff. And there was all these like, it was a promotions company called like Cry Parrot or something. I'm sure like some fancy venue in London like poached the guy and he's now a booker down there. But he was the booker at Sleazy's before, I think. So yeah, there was a great noise scene and before the Fuzzkill thing, and it kind of gave me an education on like, there was all these bands and they were just doing all their own like cassettes and they would maybe record it somewhere like the Green Door and just do it for themselves and put on all these like house shows on like West Princess Street and about town, and it was just cool. So I've always loved that about Glasgow. I really have loved that about Glasgow, that people just, they've got very much their own identity and they are proud of it and that they are always prepared to do things for themselves and just have a good time. And people are just quite friendly here. It's really nice. You know, I always say that when I get bands up from down south or whatever, they always end up having a really good time and they always end up like making pals. And you know, I mean, it's like if you go to a bar and go out for a cigarette in Glasgow on a Friday or Saturday night, I mean, pre-COVID at least, you're probably going to make some pals. You know, you just are, especially, and it's like there is a really strong sense of community here. I don't know if it's just the size of the city. That's something I like about it.
Do you feel like you belong within the time period in which you exist?
That's funny. I was thinking about that this morning. My girlfriend talk about that a lot, like, because sometimes I feel like absolutely not. I feel like I was born at the wrong time completely, in every way. But then, because you're always like, oh, I wish I was like 20 in 1967 or something like that. But then I wonder if I was born then, if I'd be like, oh yeah, this rock music's shit. It's nothing compared to all the jazz from the 1940s, man. That's where it's at. So I wonder if I would have just been that person if I was born then anyway. So I don't know.
Can that attitude drive you though?
Yeah, because I know what I like, I know what I don't like, so I can chase that, and I can foster a sense of it within the bands that I work with and within the sort of wider scene. I think it's important that people strive for a sort of sense of community within that and an inclusive sense, and move away as far as possible from conservative music making, because there's a lot of very conservative music making going on. Yeah.
If the financial aspect of music was removed, say the Slow Weather album came out and it did amazing and you're set for life, would you still produce other bands or would you just make your own records?
I'd probably still produce other bands. I'd 100%. If I was a wealthy man, I would buy a pub in the country and do the pub up and have a studio in the back of the pub and just work in the pub and record bands when I wasn't working in the pub. That's what I would do. Yeah, that was 100% what I'd do if I had the money to do it. Have a little venue, little studio, residential studio with a venue and a pub. Be amazing. Be so good. Yeah, I'd still record because I got into recording because I wanted to record my own stuff, but I enjoy recording and working with other people just as much as I do on my own stuff. I'd like to spend more time on my own stuff, to be honest. I think this year I've kind of went too far the other way and spent too much time in production, but there's a balance. There's just finding the balance, really.
Are you, when you're working in the studio with other bands, are you self-conscious if you think other people are listening to your ideas while you're in the middle of making them? No.
Because that's the thing. Because the thing is, in the studio, I want to sort of foster an atmosphere where you can feel like you can say something stupid or do something stupid, and there aren't really any repercussions other than, yeah, that didn't work. It's okay. It's fine. So no, I don't feel bad. And also, it's like if I'm working with someone, if I've agreed to work with someone, then usually they've either approached me or I've approached them, and we've had a kind of conversation about it. I don't really, for the most part, record stuff that just anything, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to really work with a band if there's not at least something about them that I think is cool or that I like. So I don't feel self-conscious giving my ideas in the studio. If the if the band don't like them, then the band don't like them. It's fine. I always say to bands, like, I'll just kind of do my thing, and if you don't like it, I'm not going to be offended. Like, if I'm maybe, I don't know, trying to put a keyboard part on something, and they're like, I'm really not into that, then it's like, it's fine. That's cool. It's just part of the process. So yeah, and the same for, I'd love for the bands to feel like they can, can we set off a firework and record it, please? It's like, yeah, well, let's do it out in the car park, but it might not work. Like, or if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. On the Stoned Immaculate record, we recorded Louis' zip on his jacket for percussion. But it's like, and the same with like the hip hop verse, when he first introduced the idea to me, I was like, in my brain, I was like, I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know if you need a hip hop verse, but let's try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. That's fine. At least we tried it. And the same with the zip, and the same with, God, we done all sorts of stupid things or weird things on that record. Yeah, man. There's so many things on that record. Like, big long phone call with one of his friends. Ended up, it's just my Talkback mic, and he was phoning his pal, and I was like, fuck, I just made a channel really quickly and put the Talkback mic in to record. Just sat there while he was on speakerphone for about 10 minutes with his pal, just talking shite, and it's one of our favourite bits on the EP now. It's one of my favourite bits on the EP anyway, because it's so real. It was just them having a laugh in the moment, and it was just them doing what they wanted to do in the moment, and that's what real rock and roll is, of punk. For me, it's that pure expression kind of thing, and it was kind of a joyful moment, and it made it on the record. And people, whether they're musicians or not, especially if they're not musicians, just average listeners, they might not be able to articulate it, but they can feel it. You know, they can feel if something is real, and they can feel if it's not. They can feel if it's a bit contrived. They can smell it a mile away. You know, they can see it a mile away if it's contrived or calculated. But if it's real and they also feel that, and they'll enjoy it as well. And so not self-conscious in the studio at all. Yeah.
What we're saying here about all these kind of out there ideas, it reminds me of a Quincy Jones quote where he spoke about how his job, or a lot of his most successful records, have been ones where he is taking the artist into their next stage of their career and moving their sound on into its next evolution and taking it to a place where the label can't see. And often the label will be put off by it because they don't realise that they're changing things. How do you see the future as a producer? Like, how do you kind of envision a band sound? How do you see potential?
Good songs, basically. Like, because that's, regardless of all the trickery or whatever Quincy Jones does, he has the raw material of great songwriters and a good band to work with. You know, that makes all the difference. So for me, it's I try and find bands around town that are doing something that I'm really interested in, or that I think is cool, even if they're like really early on in their careers. Like I seen this band, Wife Guys Have Read It. It was also the name of the band. I was like, I really want to know what that means. I feel like it's some weird internet thing, and I'm fascinated by weird internet things. So I was like, oh, I want to find that out. And I really liked what they were doing. And the same with Louis pal, Big Girl's Blouse, is Emmy. I think they are doing something cool as well. And it's like they've played one gig, but it's just like my advice to them really is just go and write songs. Basically, go and write loads of songs, and we'll chat maybe in 6 months' time or a year. But like, if you want to do it and you want to get good, then get your head down and write a big pile of songs. Don't be too precious about it. Have fun, because ultimately, if you're not having fun, then people probably won't have fun listening to it. If it's meant to be that kind of music, if it's meant to be like party stuff, you probably should be having a party when you're making it to an extent. As long as stuff's getting done, it's fine. But yeah, what I really look for in bands is good songs, because without that, there's not really that much I can do. Whereas if it's good songs and good ideas with a band that have a vision, it's just everything just blossoms in the studio. It just really works. Whereas other times, you're just kind of. So yeah, really, that's the thing now. These days, I'm just not working with stuff if I don't think the songs are good enough, basically. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem. It's my pleasure again.